So I just spent the last 25 minutes recording an awesome tutorial for you guys that didn't stamp any of the audio. So what you're going to get is probably a really impatient, really vastly trimmed down version of what I wanted to give you. But nonetheless, it's 3 years in the making. It's the first time since, I think, like summer of 2014 that I've done a tutorial. So thank you all for bearing with me. I've wanted to do one for a much longer time. I haven't been able to do one for a while, but thank you for your patience, and it's finally time. So I'm going to start with something that I get a lot of requests for, which is lights. I did do a lights tutorial those many years ago, but I've changed my method. Since around 2015, mid-2015, I've been using a method where I just replicate a single ray and drag it onto each individual light head in the project and stagger the times slightly. And it's really noticeable in my most recent video. If you look at the lights across the top here, look really closely. Every single one is exactly the same light. I've just staggered the times slightly, and it gives you that really cool kind of wave effect. If you look closely at any of my videos since mid-2015, every single one of my lights is actually exactly the same lights. I may have just increased the size somewhat. When I say the same light, I mean the same within a given array of lights. And what I mean by an array of lights is, pause this for a second, every light in this top rig section here is the same light. And then I made a different light, and I applied it to every ray in this middle row. And then I made different lights for these ones down here at the base of the stage. So obviously there are different light animations here, but they're the same within each array of lights. And that's probably saved me hundreds of hours of time in the last few years that I've been doing this. This video alone, I probably spent about half an hour doing lights, whereas this would have taken me, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours on my old method. So without too much further faffing around, I will go ahead and show you how to produce this effect in Vegas. I'm going to clear this project because I've already done this once before, but I didn't get any audio. So we're going to start fresh. And in my project timeline, I'm going to go ahead and stick in a pre-rendered image of my WrestleMania 29 stage and drag it out to about a minute. That's good enough. Usually I'll kind of build my stage image out of, you'll see in my media here, I have my stage, the Empire State Building, the bridge, and so on. So there may be a little bit of jaggediness in this image because it's kind of an all-in-one that I threw together. And if we do the middle row of lights here, one of them is going to be behind the bridge. So a little bit sloppy, but we'll, just for the sake of the demonstration, we will live with it. First thing we're going to do, add a new track. I'm going to go to my media generator, solid color, and I'm going to just pull in solid white media for 10 seconds. I'm going to open my pan and crop. And I'm going to go ahead and mask using my circle mask. I'm going to go ahead and make a circle around the size of one of the light fixture arrays that I would like to animate. I'm going to go and bump this up to full quality for a second so we can size this. It's going to bring it down. Looks about the right size. And I'm going to go ahead and put this on the lowest light in my array. I'm going to go ahead and do the array of lights that's right here along the top of the upper level of the stadium. And the reason I'm going to put this on the lowest array is because when I add my light ray to this light, if I was to put it on the highest one or up at the top left, when I duplicate this light to apply it to the other lights in the section, it's going to be boxed in and it's going to look like it's been chopped off. And I'll give you an example of that when I have my light ready. But for now, just take my word for it. Go ahead and put it in the lowest light in the array to begin with, just while we animate the first one. You'll see what I mean in a second. I'm going to add Vegas rays. And we're going to go ahead and quickly do, within these 10 seconds, we need 5 keyframes. And you're going to need to make sure that they are set to smooth fade. That way the light eases in and out of each keyframe rather than just kind of slamming wall to wall without any sense of smoothness or grace. So put it onto the smooth fade by right-clicking and selecting smooth fade. My first keyframe here, I'm just going to bring the light into focus using my X and Y coordinates. There it is. I'm going to stick this into auto for a second so that it lets me work. There we go. All right, that looks about the right size. My first coordinate, or my first keyframe, I'm going to do up and to the left. And like I said, we're going to have 5 keyframes. That means I can do up to the left. I can do up and to the right. I'm going to do down and to the right. I'm not going to go all the way down, like, bam, to the floor, because that looks tacky. Those upper level lights don't, they're not going to shine through the building, and they're not going to shine through the bridge. So just very subtly, kind of just slightly below the 180-degree mark. And then I'm going to do down and to the left. And then my final keyframe needs to be exactly the same as the first keyframe. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and drag that first keyframe over to my final. And the reason for that is if I go ahead and loop this light, take a look at the preview for a sec so I can see I have a nice light. And when it comes to the finish here, because my first keyframe was the same as the last one, there's no jump cut. It's one smooth transition from the end of this ray to the beginning of the next one with no jump. So always, always, always make sure the first keyframe and the last keyframe in your light fixture are the same. Before we go much further, I'm going to go ahead and put some glow on this. Glow, okay. And I know that you all know how to do glow, so stick some intensity on it, and then use some glow percent, which is going to kind of smear the glow, make it look, give it a bit of a glaring effect. I always put a little bit of blue color balance into my rays. You'll notice with any stage production, a white light's never actually white. It's always blue or yellow. So you go back and look at my videos over the last few years when I actually started giving a crap and started paying attention to detail, you'll see the same thing. So I've got one nice light. And what am I going to do with one nice light? I'm not going to go ahead and do the exact same thing I just did 100 times. I'm going to do something much simpler. I'm going to take this light and I'm going to drag it and put it on every other light in this array. So I'm going to take it to my top left one. And let me quickly throw back to a point I made earlier. If I hadn't made this light the lowest one in my array, if I went to take this light and put it somewhere else in the project, you'll see that the top of the ray is chopped off, which looks tacky. But because I did my lowest one, no matter where in this array I put this light, it's always going to fit snugly within that box. So I'm going to go and speed through and slap this ray onto every other of the points in my array of lights here. So I'm going to speed this up and I will see you on the other side. All right, I've duplicated that one light 12 times. across this upper row of lights on my stage image, and look at that, I have 12 perfectly identical rays, which looks tacky as heck. So what I want to do now is randomize these. And the way we do that is by slightly staggering the beginning time of each ray. And depending on how varied you want them to look, you will stagger the times slightly differently. For example, if you want these to look like the rays on top of my video here, these ones that look like a wave, this wave of light rays, these were probably, I don't know, 10 or 15 frames apart from each other. But the top row that we're playing with in our project here, these guys are probably about 20 to 30 frames apart. So that's what we'll do here. So I'm going to go to about a second in. There's 31 frames. Okay, we'll do that. So I'm going to drag each one by one, about a second apart from each other. And let me just change the preview here so you can see what I'm doing as I go. I'm going to drag them all back. Next one. And the next one. The next one. Next one. Almost there. All right. So before I preview these, I'm just going to extend my animation. So I'm going to select my group select tool and drag a selection, get all of those, and now control copy, drag it along, spread them out a little bit. I'll make a little selection right here. And let me just drum up a quick preview to show you what we've got. So the preview's still lagging its way along here, but what you can see we've done is created a nice little wave effect on these lights, and probably they should be a little further apart so that they don't look so deliberately like a wave. Like that very, very top row should look like a wave like this. Ideally, you'll spread them out a little bit more and they'll look more unique, but you get the point. I want you to play around with this. Go ahead and try them at different intervals, different speed variants, and you'll be able to make them look just the way I do. It's really, really simple once you get the hang of it. I just did one example on this demo. Usually with one array of lights like this, where I've just done one version, per project, I'll usually have to do 2 or 3 attempts just like this on every array to get it just right. And if I was doing this project from scratch again, I would scrap what we just did, and I'd go and do it again with slightly wider breaks between each one so that they look more random. In order to kind of, if I go back to the beginning here and I scroll my way through, you'll see that I'll have one light pop in at a time because they're kind of staggering in like this. To fit this within a certain time interval, let's say that my video begins where I've just put my loop bracket right here, and I know that it's going to end back here, right? In fact, I'm going to backtrack that. Let's say that my video begins with lights. So my lights need to begin at the very start of the timeline, and my lights need to end way back here. What I need to do is make sure that my entire block of lights more than covers the span of my rendering block in blue that I just made. So I'm going to select all of these, control copy, and drag them out. And what I can now do is select right where I need to find the point where all of my lights are now in frame, which is right here. Because if I click here, only half the lights are in. If I click here, all of my lights are now in frame. And I'm going to press M on my keyboard and that's going to make an orange marker on the timeline with the number 1, my first project marker. What I'm going to do is once again drag and select every single light, and then I'm going to click on my marker. I'm going to click S on my keyboard, and that's going to separate what comes before the marker, so I can now click and drag everything before the marker and delete. And that's going to allow me to select everything and drag it to the front of the project. So now from the second number 1, every single light is in frame. And now, because I see that at the end here, I'm in line with the end of my project is at the end of my blue rendering block, so I'll select that. I'm going to hit M to make a new marker. And I'm going to do exactly what we just did. Select all, hit S on my keyboard, break it out, select the excess, and delete. And now I have a super, super clean block of lights. And my project is well underway. If I was going at regular speed without my screen recording software on slowing me down, that one array of lights I probably could have done in about 2 minutes. Every light in this project, I think I said earlier in the video, took me about half an hour, whereas it would have taken me hours to do without this technique if I was going to try and program them one by one. So please take this tool. I don't want to see any more of these videos where somebody has like 5 lights animated on the same track, moving in the same sweep at the same time, looking lazy. That's lazy number 1. In my opinion, now lazy, or not lazy, but inefficient number 2 is animating them one by one. And kind of the third wave, the third level of proficiency in doing this is the method I just showed you. You're going to save yourself so much time, and they're going to look great. So, take this on board, use it right. If you have any questions for me, about if you try it and it doesn't work for you, give me a shout in the comments, or find a way to reach me and ask me a question. I will be happy to help, and I'm probably going to try and do some more tutorial recordings as well. So if you can think of anything that you'd like to see more of, just drop me a comment and I will take it into consideration. Shout out to Dave for twisting my arm and forcing me to do more tutorials by shaming me for not doing more of these. So Dave, I feel ashamed. I feel so ashamed that I had to make another tutorial. So here you go. Thank you all for watching. If you make stages yourselves and you find this helpful, I'm thrilled by that, and I hope you'll take these lessons into account and do good things with them. If you don't make stages yourselves and you're just kind of watching this out of interest, I hope this was a cool behind the scenes look at one of my processes, and I hope you'll keep coming back and watching my videos. So thank you very much, and I look forward to speaking with you all soon.